Through our findings, we have also concluded some descriptive statistics, which are brief descriptive coefficients that condense a given informational collection, which can be either a portrayal of the whole or an example of a population. Descriptive statistics are separated into proportions of focal inclination and proportions of changeability, which is the spread. Proportions of focal propensity incorporate the mean, median, and mode, while proportions of variability incorporate the standard deviation, variance, the base, and the greatest factors, the kurtosis, and the skewness.
For inferential statistics utilize an irregular example of information taken from a population to portray and make inferences about the population. Inferential statistics are significant when examination of every individual from a whole population is not advantageous or conceivable.
The parametric test is a hypothesis test which gives speculation to making explanation about the mean of the parent population. The non-parametric test is categorized as the hypothesis test, which did not depend on fundamental suspicions. We are using the parametric test in our research paper, which are the sample t-test and one-way ANOVA test.
Through the questionnaires data, we've concluded the background information of the respondents with the above data shown. Half of the respondents are male, while the other half are female. The data can be said to be very well balanced. Moreover, the data for age concluded is that the diagram above states the respondent's age demonstrates the highest percentage, with 36% coming from 19-year-olds in the tertiary training, though the least addressed were 23-year-olds with 6% in total.
From our research, we targeted respondents from different races. As the table shown, survey has been done within the range of university or college students around Nilai area. Every one of them are related to our research background.
School of study. Based on the data from the diagram, it has been categorized into 5 groups: business, engineering, art, computing, and others. Most of the interviewees comes from others, about 32.5%, while the least amount of interviewees were from computing, making up about 4.3%. For nationality, the table and graph shows describe that Malaysian students participated the most for the research, which was 92% compared to the 8% of international students.
According to the diagram above, it is shown that the highest GPA come from the interviewees were the students with a 3.1 to 3.5 CGPA with a percentage of 43.5%, while the lowest GPA count were those with a 2.0 CGPA mark, marking up only 0.5% of the interviewees.
We've also concluded the data accumulated for Objective 1, which was to identify on the extent of mobile phone usage among students, to search information for academic purposes, as shown in the data below.
The data collected, we found that our respondents provide related responses to our research objective. As the results shown in the slide, it managed to achieve with our second research objective, which is to study on the possible outcomes where mobile phones could be used in a dishonest and destructive manners regarding university purposes.
Based on table 4.3.3, the data has shown that 174, which is 43.5%, of the respondents have agreed that the use of mobile phones in the classroom is when they are bored with the lecture. 135 people, which is 33.8%, are neutral in terms of controlling themselves without being connected to social networking sites during the lecture time. 105 people, which is 26.3%, have felt neutral in terms of playing games during lecture periods. 184 people, which is 46%, have agreed they intend to use mobile devices for learning purpose because of the immediate access to information.
The data show that 138 respondents, which are 34.5%, agree that they spend more time on mobile phones than study. 154 of the respondents, which are 38.5%, feel neutral when talking on their mobile phone, even with others. 122 of the respondents, which are 31.3%, agree on finding it difficult to socialize with people who do not have mobile phone. Meanwhile, 194 of the respondents, which are 48.5%, agree on mobile phones providing access to more educational content. Now this is the result in testing our first hypothesis. In this test, we are using the independent sample test. The result of this examination that measure different level of education has significant relationship with the related study. The independent sample test showed that majority of the results were above 0.5 level. The hypothesis is accepted.
From the table, we found that the investigation measured the level of grades or CGPA among the respondents with the related study. The result by using ANOVA showed that the majority result were over 0.5 level. Hence, it can be concluded that CGPA level has effect as college youths use mobile phone as their academic resources. The hypothesis is accepted.
Field of study. The examination measured that different field of study of the respondent with the related study. The result of the ANOVA showed that most of the results were over 0.5 level. Consequently, it showed that different field of study among the college youth, the more usage they use their mobile phones. The hypothesis is accepted.
The data accumulated for the investigation measured the gender of the respondents with the related study. The ANOVA show that most of the results were above a 0.5 level. Hence, it can be concluded that female students have a higher mobile phone usage compared to male students. The hypothesis is accepted. Through our discussions, we've concluded that based on the first objective, we can conclude that questionnaire data accumulated for this study, it is shown that the students agree on the use of mobile phones as a search engine for information regarding academic purposes. And based on the second objective, which is to study the possible outcomes where mobile phones could be used in a dishonest and disruptive manner regarding university purposes, it is shown that the possible outcomes in which mobile phones could be used disruptively is shown to be inconclusive at large. Most students have also felt inconclusive towards the change of mobile phones being a huge distraction during classes and are unconcerned whether policies limiting to the phone usage made or not. And based on the third objective, which is to investigate whether students use their mobile phones for personal intent or study purposes, the majority of the students have agreed that mobile phones are indeed being used for personal intent as well as studying purposes. The respondents felt that when classes tend to get boring, the urge for entertainment is powerful. However, if there were any who were distracted by their mobile phones, playing games and such, it is ignored by the majority. Based on the fourth objective, which is to investigate the relationship between the usage of mobile phones and the students who use it, it is shown that the majority are in between agreeing and feeling neutral towards the relationship of the mobile phone and the students who use it. It is agreed by the respondents that they do spend more time on their mobile phones rather than actual studying.
We have concluded our hypothesis for our research. Mobile phones as a supplementary resource for college students will affect the CGPA levels. According to the questionnaire data accumulated for this study, it is shown that mobile phones being used as a supplementary resource for students will affect CGPA levels is accepted. Based on the data shown, it is seen that the respondents have an increase in their education study-wise, as well as academic performance is due to the dependency on technology being a guide and search engine for information. According to the questionnaire data accumulated, it is shown that the hypothesis that a specific gender, female, uses a higher usage on mobile phones compared to their counterpart male in terms with education is accepted. Based on the data shown, the level in which females are on their phones more so than males is due to uncomfortable socialization and easier acceptance to face their mobile phones than meeting eyes to eyes with other people. After that, according to the questionnaire data accumulated, it is shown that the hypothesis on whether the higher the level of education, the lower the usage of mobile phones is accepted. Based on the data shown, it is seen that there is a significant change as students go higher in their education with the dependency increasing each time. According to the questionnaire data accumulated, it is shown that the hypothesis on whether the different fields of study increases the usage of mobile phones is proven to be true. Based on the data shown, it is accepted that some fields are required to have more dependency on mobile learning than most. However, it does not disprove the idea that it's easier to learn just because of certain leniency on policy.
Media dependency theories is the most suitable theory to apply in our research. As present from our collected data, the result shows that the most of the youth are reliant on their mobile phone to fulfill their daily needs. Additionally, mobile learning theory also able to apply throughout this research. From the data, majority of youth agree on the usage of mobile phones towards education purposes. As we observe, mobile phone is improving time to time, so it enables students to learn and submit their works via mobile phone due to the internet access. It is undeniable that the usage of smartphone among students are increasing. This phenomenon shows that students are heavily depending on mobile phone, not only for education purposes and also for personal purposes. Therefore, lecturers could leverage on student dependency on mobile phone by implementing relevant activities that are able to attract student attentions. This is able to maintain a win-win situation for students and lecturers that they still use smartphones for education purposes. Meanwhile, student CGPA not being affected.
Limitations and recommendations. The method we are using in this study is quantitative method, which we create and utilize scientific models, speculations, and theories relating to phenomena. Quantitative method cannot be utilized to clarify social phenomena, which makes it less valuable in fields like sociology. I recommend that we should use qualitative method because it gives depth and detail, which means it looks further than investigating positions and checks by account states of mind, sentiments, and practices. We also use systematic random sampling. The limitations of systematic random sampling is that the procedure of choice can cooperate with a covered up occasional characteristic inside the populace. I recommend that we use focus group because they are helpful to acquire point-by-point data about personal and group emotions, recognitions, and assessments. The questionnaire that we did is close-ended questionnaire. The limitations are they can propose thoughts that the respondent would not generally have. Respondents with no sentiment or no information can also answer in any case. It is more suitable to use open-ended questionnaire because it enables respondents to incorporate more data, including emotions, states of mind, and comprehension of the subject. Social implication for school. The social implications from this study for school students is that they will be aware that mobile phones can give you a lot of benefits and disadvantages in their studies. Once they know that mobile phones could really help them for studies, they would use that advantages and be aware of the disadvantages of mobile phones. And for global community, this study also affect them. They also would be aware that mobile phones provide a lot of useful information for them and it could help them a lot with their work.